I'd like to talk today about who's leading your life. Might sound like a bit of a strange question, but what I've experienced myself and working with my clients and also looking out at the big old world is that most people are in default mode, just bubbling through life, reacting to situations, people, experiences, emails, you name it, anything outside of themselves to determine how they feel, their degree of stress, their degree of fear, anxiety, overwhelm, all of that. And I get it. I've been there and I frequent that place still myself. And I've also found that when we really understand that the power lies within us and that when we're consciously leading our own life, meaning we're making choices and decisions that are not reactive in response to everything around, if that's happening, we're out of sync with our true center and we're really in a program or a conditioned response. So anytime we're not consciously choosing how we are feeling, thinking, being, it's just automatic. It's just that subconscious mind coming in and we're in a program. And there's nothing inherently wrong with programs or conditioning. However, and Dr. Bruce Lipton talks a lot about this, the majority of our programming is negative and it's unconscious. So we're operating 95% of the time from this negative unconscious place. And as you can imagine, and as you've probably lived, this creates havoc in our lives and our relationships, inside of ourselves, because we're buying into the beliefs of not enough, I'm not enough, there's not enough, or whatever flavor of distortion that we have bought into. And we all have conditioning. So I have a lot of compassion for myself, for the parts of myself that have been conditioned and that are really on a path to freeing themselves from other people's beliefs, other people's thoughts and systems of perceiving reality. And when we take a stand for just becoming aware, when we have a belief, a thought, a program that's running, that's the first step, is that we have to see there's actually a program running. The second step is to then choose, am I willing to see this differently? Do I want to see beyond the program? Am I willing to look from another perspective or have another alternate reality, so to speak? And that can be as simple as shifting our perspective 1 degree. It doesn't have to be a big 180. However, if we do not shift the perspective, if we do not step out of the level of consciousness of the fear-based programming and into a place of more expanded consciousness, we will keep regurgitating suffering, essentially. Because you've probably heard that famous quote, who maybe it's by Einstein, there's some controversy around that, but we cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness from which it originated, paraphrasing. So we need to change our point of view, change our perspective. This is where meditation is helpful. This is where taking 5 breaths and literally slowing things down, shifting from a dysregulated nervous system to a regulated nervous system. So all of these things contribute to us either leading our life or going into victim mode, where we think everything outside of us is to blame, whether that's, we project our power onto money, onto time, onto energy. Those are really common, right? I don't have enough time, don't have enough energy, don't have enough money. And we can make up any story about anything. And this is how we've been entrained as good little humans to see good things happen, we feel good. If bad things happen, we feel bad. And I put, good and bad in air quotes, because essentially there is no inherent good and bad things that happen. It's really the meaning that we're placing on everything that is going to determine our experience of it and how we are able or willing to digest the experience. In Ayurvedic medicine, we talk about this concept of ama, and ama is toxicity. And we can literally have mental and emotional toxicity that will inevitably create physical dis-ease. But even as standalone experiences of mental toxicity or emotional toxicity, we could call this stress. We could call this, a dysregulated nervous system. We can call this overwhelm, anger, anxiety, depression. So we need to understand that we are not a victim to circumstance. Yes, terrible things will happen. Absolutely. This is the world of duality that we live in. And as humans, we get the opportunity to decide what meaning am I going to make out of this? How am I choosing to perceive this? And I love knowing that there is going to be a bigger picture, that whatever is happening in my life that I might feel so grief-stricken over or afraid of or agitated by, that in the very moment of that experience, it's not the fullness of my life. It's not the bigger picture of my life. It's really just a narrow moment in time. It doesn't define who I am. It doesn't define anything, in fact, other than what I say is true for me about the experience and myself in relationship to it. So stepping into conscious, a self-led life is what I would call is mastery, is how we begin to master our life. When we become equanimous, doesn't mean we become, monotone, but the yogis have talked about this for thousands of years, that equanimous mind, so that we experience fully the experience. We don't, cut off or do a bypass or disown parts of ourselves. We get to be in the experience. And simultaneously, we get to notice all of the drama inside of ourselves around that experience. And then consciously choose, is this who I want to be? Is this how I want to show up? Is this how I want to identify in this moment and in my life and in this experience? And this conceptually is very simple to understand, but the application, the embodiment of this, I do believe, is mastery. At this level, we are in a third dimension of duality, and it can feel very heavy at times. But we can use this contrast to really get to know what we don't want, to really propel us forward into even greater health, greater abundance, greater generosity, greater peace even, because we've had the experience of the alternative. And so when we've had the experience of what we don't want, then that brings us even closer to knowing, clarifying, and committing to, truly devoting to how we want to live our life and how we want to be. So my question to you today is, are you leading your life? Or is life leading you? Are you bumbling around or, saying really cute spiritual things like, well, maybe it wasn't meant to be, and defaulting, giving your power over to something outside of yourself? It's quite a radical way to be when we no longer allow the external to dictate our contentedness, our happiness, our peace, our ability to give or love or simply be grateful for this beautiful, miraculous life. So I'm curious if this resonates with you. I'm curious if this is landing for you and making sense for you and feeling maybe even exciting. I get really excited when I think about this, and then sometimes really frustrated when I can't embody the teaching. And it's the practice, though, that I am noticing is essential, that the commitment to it and keep returning back to the memory, the remembrance, the reminding, oh, I have choice. I always have choice. It might appear that I don't have choice, and my wounded ego might say, oh no, this blah, 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 and give all sorts of evidence, all sorts of explanations, all sorts of reasoning as to why it feels like victimhood, why it feels like the world is against us. And that, again, is just a good indicator that we're in a program, we're in a conditioned response. So let me know your thoughts. I'm curious if you're leading your life or if life is leading you. And I look forward to continuing this conversation. And this is a lot of the work that I do inside of my groups. And starting on February the 5th, we will be diving into this entire concept in my Sacred Leadership Immersion program so that you can really embody the concept of sacred leadership and of leading your own life from the inside out. Okay, see you soon. Much love.